quiet of our lives, the hidden truth of how we live, of how we worship, and of how we marry all converge. We have built our world in 1,000 ways, only to discover, too late, that the seeds of deception often grow in the most sacred soil. And this deception, this subtle, creeping shadow, isn't always the obvious force we fear. No, it is something more insidious, something that thrives in the spaces between, where intention and meaning are masked by ceremony and tradition. We are told that wealth is something to be sought after, that success is the ultimate goal of life, and yet in the pursuit of these hollow things, we lose sight of what it means to truly be rich. The weight of money, whether in the form of glittering gold or the more abstract currency of power, has been held up for so long as a symbol of what is good, of what is right, of what we must aspire to. It is in this desire, this yearning for more, that we begin to forget the very thing that wealth was meant to symbolize: abundance. True abundance is not found in the riches of the earth, but in the richness of the soul. Yet, here we are, playing out the roles of our lives as if each choice is an investment in a fleeting world, a world that promises more but delivers less. And what better symbol of this madness than the grand tradition of marriage? At first glance it seems so pure, so simple, a celebration of love, of union, of a promise made before God. But even this sacred institution, this symbol of commitment, has been hijacked, twisted into a spectacle of vanity and expectation. We are drawn into the web of its symbolism without ever questioning the origin of the threads that bind us: the ring, the veil, the walk down the aisle. They are not just gestures, they are rituals steeped in meaning and history, often more ancient than we care to admit. In the act of marriage, we are told to take what is promised, to claim what is given, and yet, in doing so, we participate in something deeper than we realize, something older than we know, something that carries with it a weight of unexamined tradition, from a time before love was understood, before commitment was pure, before the human soul had learned to worship the divine in itself, instead of in fleeting rituals and earthly things. When we speak of wealth, we must ask ourselves, what is wealth? Is it the riches we accumulate? Is it the influence we hold over others? Is it the power we exert? Or is it something more, something far more subtle, far more potent, something that cannot be held or measured, but must only be lived and felt? We, as human beings, are constantly on a search for wealth. We look for it in our careers, in our relationships, in the things we possess. But this quest, though noble in its own right, often leads us astray. For in the pursuit of wealth, we forget that true abundance cannot be seen or touched. It is something that arises in the spaces where love, integrity, and spirit exist. But the most powerful kind of wealth is not the one measured by the size of the bank account or the number of zeros at the end of a paycheck. No, the most powerful wealth is the wealth of the soul, the ability to give, to nurture, to live in the light of integrity, to embrace the power of purpose and faith. In the pursuit of wealth, we must never forget that it is not what we have, but who we become, that defines our true worth. The wedding ring, once a symbol of love, has become a symbol of status, a prize to be earned, a wealth to be displayed. But the truth is, that very ring, that very symbol, comes with a cost to the soul, to the spirit, and to the heart. And it is not just in the ring, but in the very rituals we perform, in the very traditions we uphold, that we encounter the hidden dangers of worshipping wealth above all else. Take, for instance, the veil. In its most ancient form, the veil was not a symbol of purity, but a symbol of protection, of secrecy, of the unseen forces at work in the life of the bride. It was meant to shield her, to protect her from the powers that might seek to control her, to subjugate her. Yet, over time, this veil has become a symbol of submission, of an unquestioned obedience to tradition, to a set of rules and rituals that were not written for love, but for control. The very thing that was meant to protect has become a mask, hiding the truth beneath it, binding the soul to a set of practices that have lost their original meaning. And then there is the walk down the aisle, that most sacred of moments, when the bride, arm in arm with her father, takes her first steps toward the altar. It is a powerful moment, one that evokes emotions of love, joy, and anticipation. But let us ask ourselves, why must she walk down the aisle? Why must she be given away? Why must she be led by another? Is it because she is an object to be traded, an asset to be exchanged? Or is it because, in the depths of our souls, we still see ourselves as things to be possessed, to be controlled, to be taken by another? We must ask ourselves, what is truly worth taking? What is truly worth claiming? Is it not the heart, the spirit, the soul? And if that is the case, then why have we so often, in our quest for wealth and success, traded the true treasures of the heart for the fleeting rewards of the world? There is a deeper lesson here, a truth we must come to grips with if we are to move forward in our understanding of wealth, marriage, and the world we live in. We must stop treating life as if it is a series of transactions, a series of exchanges that can be made in the marketplace of the world. We must stop measuring our value by the things we possess, by the symbols we wear, by the roles we play. Instead, we must seek the true wealth that lies within the wealth that comes from knowing ourselves, from understanding our purpose, from living in integrity with the divine. When we come to this understanding, we will see that wealth is not found in the things we can hold, but in the things we can give. It is found not in what we gain, but in what we give away. Let us consider the way we approach marriage, then, as a mirror to this truth. If we approach marriage as a transaction, as something to be possessed or earned, then we will find ourselves hollow, empty, always seeking more, always looking for the next thing to fill the void. But if we approach marriage as a partnership, as a union of two souls, then we will find ourselves enriched not by what we gain, but by what we give. It is in this giving, in this act of selflessness, that we truly experience the wealth of love, the wealth of life, the wealth of purpose. In the end, the most powerful lesson we can learn from the rituals and traditions of marriage, and indeed from the rituals of life itself, is that we are not here to possess, but to be possessed, not by another, but by love, by truth, by integrity, by purpose. When we are possessed by these things, we are no longer bound by the chains of materialism, of tradition, of wealth, as the world defines it. We are free to live, to love, to be, and in this freedom we discover the truest form of wealth, not that which can be earned, but that which can only be given. And so we must ask ourselves, what kind of life do we want to lead? What kind of wealth do we want to possess? The answer lies not in the things we acquire, but in the way we live, the way we love, and the way we give. When we learn this lesson, we will see that the true wealth is not found in the material world, but in the richness of the soul, in the love we share, and in the purpose we live. Let this be the wealth we pursue, the wealth of the heart, the wealth of the spirit, the wealth that cannot be taken, but can only be given. In this, we will find abundance, not as the world defines it, but as it is truly meant to be. And when we begin to live with this awareness, when we embrace this true wealth, we will no longer be entangled in the endless chase for fleeting possessions or accolades that the world places before us as trophies to be won. We will no longer seek validation from the symbols of success, the fancy cars, the grand houses, the sparkling rings. No, these things will no longer hold the same power over us. Instead, we will measure our lives not by what we have, but by who we are, by the depth of our relationships, the integrity of our actions, and the purity of our intentions. There is a quiet peace in this realization, a peace that surpasses understanding. For when we are not enslaved to the pursuit of wealth as the world defines it, we free ourselves to live authentically, to love without expectation, to give without reservation, to serve without seeking recognition. In this way, we come to embody the truest form of abundance, an abundance of the soul, of connection, of fulfillment. Let us return to the metaphor of marriage, for it is one of the most profound symbols of human life and union. The wedding itself, the ceremony, is not simply an exchange of rings or vows. It is a reflection of the deepest truth of existence, the union of two souls, each seeking to live in service of the other, each seeking to give rather than take, to nurture rather than possess. It is in this sacred act of selflessness, this mutual surrender, that we discover the truest joy. For joy does not come from what we acquire, but from what we give away. In this way, marriage teaches us the lesson of wealth that the world forgets. It teaches us that true abundance is found in the giving, in the commitment, in the willingness to pour oneself out for another. It is not about what we gain from the relationship, the status, the possessions, or even the love itself, but in what we bring to the table, in how we show up each day as a partner, a friend, a lover, our confidant. The deeper the well of our giving, the greater the wealth we accumulate in the heart. This is the wealth that cannot be stolen, that cannot be measured by any earthly means. This is the wealth that transcends the passing of time and the changing of circumstances. This is the wealth that endures. But the truth is, we are all guilty of losing sight of this deeper wealth at times. We get caught up in the world's ways, in the shallow pursuit of things that glitter, that impress, that promise fulfillment, but never quite deliver. We become distracted, we forget to look inward, and we fall into the trap of seeking success outside of ourselves rather than within. And in that pursuit, we often miss the quiet moments of grace, the moments where we could have chosen to give, to serve, to love, and yet we chose instead to take, to accumulate, to hoard. This is the great tragedy of modern life. We are so consumed with becoming more that we forget that we are already enough. We forget that we are already rich beyond measure in the things that matter most. The love we share, the joy we bring, the kindness we extend, the truth we speak, these are the true treasures. Yet we are often blinded by the false allure of material success, and in that blindness we miss the beauty of the life we already have. It is not too late, however, to return to the path of true wealth, to realign ourselves with the principles of giving, of service, of deep love, and of integrity. We must return to a life of intentionality, where each choice we make is a choice to give of our time, our energy, our resources, and most of all, our hearts. We must choose every day to give freely and abundantly without expecting anything in return. For in the end, the more we give, the more we receive. Not in material goods, not in recognition, but in something far greater: peace, fulfillment, joy, and the knowledge that we have lived in harmony with the deepest truths of the universe. This is the lesson marriage teaches us, and this is the lesson life itself teaches us. True wealth is not what we accumulate, but what we give. It is not found in the things we possess, but in the hearts we touch, the souls we uplift, and the love we pour out into the world. And when we begin to live in this way, we find that we are not only wealthy in the truest sense, but we are also free. Free from the chains of comparison, free from the endless chase for more, free from the emptiness that comes from a life spent pursuing things that do not matter. And so, we return to the idea of tradition, to the symbols and rituals that have shaped our understanding of marriage, of wealth, and of success. They are not inherently wrong, but they have become distorted. They have been hijacked by the world's pursuit of superficial wealth, of status, of power. The true meaning of these rituals, the veil, the ring, the walk down the aisle, has been obscured. But if we can strip away the layers of materialism, if we can return to the original intention behind these symbols, we will find that they are not signs of possession, but of union, of mutual giving, of shared purpose. Let us then choose to redefine what wealth means in our lives. Let us look beyond the surface, beyond the trinkets and the status symbols, and seek the deeper truth. Let us cultivate the wealth of the soul, the kind of wealth that grows when we give, when we serve, when we love. This is the wealth that endures, that sustains us through every season of life, that fills us with a peace that the world cannot take away. And this is the wealth that we are meant to pursue, the wealth that will lead us to the life we were always meant to live. In the end, when we stand before God, when we stand before ourselves, and when we stand before the lives we have touched, the question will not be, how much did you acquire? The question will be, how much did you give? For in the giving we find the truest meaning of life, and in the giving we find the truest wealth. So let us give. Let us live a life of abundance, not in the things we possess, but in the love we offer, in the truth we live, in the joy we spread, and in the richness of the souls we touch along the way. This is the path to true wealth. This is the path to a life that matters. This is the path to becoming the person we were always meant to be. And yet, even as we reflect upon this truth, we must recognize that it is not always easy to walk this path. The world will try to pull us in its direction, tugging at our hearts, whispering its promises of instant gratification, success, and fulfillment. It tells us that happiness lies in the accumulation of things, in the applause of others, in the fleeting satisfaction of owning more, doing more, becoming more. But we must remember, it is a lie. It is a lie that has been told to us for generations, a lie that is wrapped in the cloak of comfort, dressed up in the garb of success, and all the while it has been empty. We are not meant to be consumed by this race, nor are we meant to live in constant pursuit of wealth defined by the world's standards. There is a quiet freedom that comes when we refuse to play the game, when we reject the idea that success is measured in possessions or titles or the size of our bank accounts. There is an even greater freedom when we decide, once and for all, that we will not chase wealth as the world defines it, not because it is wrong, but because there is something more, something richer, something far more lasting and meaningful waiting for us. In every heart, there is the potential for this transformation, the realization that the true wealth of life is not in what we acquire, but in what we contribute. The peace we seek, the joy we long for, the purpose we desire, they are all found not in the things we possess, but in the depth of our character, in the purity of our intentions, and in the relationships we cultivate with others. Marriage, as we have discussed, is not simply a contract or an exchange of vows. It is a deep, sacred union where both parties no longer as two individuals, but as one give everything of themselves to the other. There is no possession here, no taking or demanding. There is only surrender, the willing surrender of our hearts, our time, and our very selves for the sake of love. And in that surrender, in that giving, we find an abundance that the world cannot offer, an abundance that nourishes not just ourselves, but the very souls of those around us. This is the true wealth of marriage, the wealth that comes not from what we receive, but from what we give. We must also ask ourselves, what is the purpose of all this? Why does wealth, whether in material or spiritual terms, even matter? And the answer is simple, though often elusive. The purpose of wealth is not to make us comfortable or to shield us from the difficulties of life. The purpose of wealth, true wealth, is to empower us to live out our purpose, to fulfill the calling that resides deep within each of us, a calling that transcends what we can see, what we can touch, and what we can measure. True wealth empowers us to become the best version of ourselves, to use our gifts and talents in service of others, and to contribute to a world that is desperate for light, for love, and for meaning. It is this deeper purpose, this higher calling, that we must always keep in mind. We are not here merely to exist, to accumulate, or to survive. We are here to become more than we were yesterday, to become the fullness of what we were always meant to be. And as we pursue this transformation, as we strive to live a life of integrity, of love, and of service, we will find that the riches of the world, the material wealth, will fade into the background. It will no longer be the thing we covet, the thing we chase. What we will covet instead is something far greater: peace, joy, purpose, fulfillment. And these things, these true treasures, will never fade. They will not wear out. They will not lose their value with time. The tragedy of our world is that we have so often mistaken wealth for things, for objects, for status. We have confused success with the accumulation of external markers: the house, the car, the clothes, the career. And in this confusion, we have forgotten the deeper, more profound truth, that success is found in the way we live, in the way we love, in the way we give. It is found in the way we choose to see the world, to engage with others, and to find meaning even in the most difficult circumstances. As we move forward in life, we must remember this. We must remind ourselves daily that the true riches are those that reside in the heart. We must never allow ourselves to be swayed by the empty promises of the world, by the seductive allure of more. For when we choose to pursue wealth in the form of love, of service, of grace, we will find that we are richer than we could have ever imagined. And so we must live as if wealth is already ours. We must live with gratitude, with humility, with the knowledge that every day, every moment, every breath is a gift. We must choose to give of ourselves freely, without expectation, and to find joy in that giving. This is the way of true wealth. This is the way of a life that is rich in meaning, rich in love, and rich in purpose. We must also remember that the power of wealth does not lie in what it can do for us, but in what it can allow us to do for others. It is not in the comfort it can provide, but in the freedom it grants us to pursue our highest calling, to serve others, and to live a life of integrity and authenticity. True wealth is not about hoarding or keeping. It is about giving, sharing, and multiplying. When we give, we not only enrich the lives of others, but we also enrich our own. And when we live from a place of generosity, not just with our money, but with our time, our energy, and our hearts, we will find that the true treasures of life begin to unfold before us. Let us then commit to this way of living. Let us commit to seeking the wealth that cannot be measured, the wealth that is not confined to material things, the wealth that is found in love, in service, in purpose. Let us remember that the most important riches are not those we can acquire, but those we can give. And in doing so, we will discover a life that is richer, deeper, and more meaningful than we ever thought possible. In the end, it is not the possessions we leave behind that will define us. It is not the things we accumulate that will stand as a testament to our lives. It is the love we have shared, the lives we have touched, and the impact we have made. This is the true wealth, the wealth that will endure beyond this life, the wealth that will shine in eternity. Let us live with this in mind. Let us pursue this true wealth, not for our own sake, but for the sake of those we love, for the sake of the world, and for the sake of our own souls. For when we do, we will discover that we have been rich all along, rich in love, rich in purpose, rich in the things that truly matter. And in the end, we will stand before the Creator, not with a list of possessions or accomplishments, but with a heart full of gratitude for the life we have lived, the love we have shared, and the legacy we have left. This is the true wealth, the wealth that never fades, the wealth that lasts for eternity. And so, the question returns, quietly. insistently, as every eternal truth does. What are we truly worshipping? What God sits at the altar of our hearts? For every ritual, every habit, every tradition, no matter how noble it seems, reveals what we have enthroned within ourselves. And when the symbols of love, of faith, of union, of success become corrupted by the pursuit of wealth, then even sacred ceremonies turn into acts of idolatry, not because the things themselves are evil, but because we have misplaced the object of our reverence. The modern wedding in many ways mirrors the human soul's misunderstanding of wealth. What was meant to be holy has become hollow. What was meant to be a covenant has become a performance. We build arches of flowers and towers of gold. We clothe ourselves in the language of romance and divinity. And yet, beneath it all, there lingers a quiet emptiness, because the meaning has been exchanged for the spectacle. And just as in faith, so in life, the outward form can become a beautiful disguise for inward decay. It is not that beauty is wrong, nor that celebration is unworthy. It is that when these become substitutes for substance, we trade the eternal for the temporary. We forget that wealth at its core was never meant to be worshipped, but wielded. It was never meant to enslave the soul, but to serve the good. And the moment it ceases to serve, it corrupts quietly, almost invisibly at first, until one day we wake up and find that what was meant to free us has chained us instead. True transformation begins when we realize that the corruption of the world is not out there in politics, in systems, in the market, but within us. It begins when we see that every desire for more, every fear of lack, every comparison, every envy is a fragment of witchcraft disguised as logic. For witchcraft is not merely the invocation of spells or rituals. It is the manipulation of spirit through illusion. It is the belief that power lies outside oneself, that something external, a charm, a ring, a title, a fortune, can complete us. And this illusion has been alive since Eden. We have become masters of outward enchantments, the spell of status, the charm of reputation, the ritual of consumption. We have learned to polish the surface while neglecting the substance. But the soul is not fooled. Deep down it knows. It aches for meaning while the mind distracts it with motion. It hungers for truth while the body craves novelty. And all the while the divine wealth within us waits silent, patient, unspent. Wealth, when understood rightly, is an extension of gratitude. It is the outward expression of inward abundance. It is not acquired by force, but cultivated through character. The man who learns to master his desires becomes the wealthiest man alive, for he has discovered that no treasure compares to peace. And peace, unlike gold, cannot be stolen, cannot be traded, cannot be taxed. It is the purest currency of the soul. But peace demands truth, and truth demands transformation. The transformation of the heart is not a gentle process. It is a fire that burns away the falsehoods we cling to, the illusions of control, of superiority, of possession. It strips us bare until only what is real remains. And it is there, in that sacred poverty, that we discover the riches of heaven within ourselves. For when everything false falls away, everything true begins to shine. To be truly wealthy is to walk through the world untouched by its seductions. It is to love deeply without attachment, to give freely without calculation, to live fully without fear. It is to know that abundance is not what flows into your hands, but what flows out of your heart. For the soul that gives is the soul that grows. Perhaps this is why even the corrupted traditions still whisper remnants of divine truth. The ring a symbol of eternity, yes, but also a reminder that what we bind ourselves to will bind us in return. The veil a sign not of concealment, but of revelation, for only by lifting it can we see truly. The altar, not a stage for performance, but a place of surrender, where two lives lay down their pride and rise as one. Each symbol, though twisted by time, carries within it a seed of redemption, waiting to be understood again. And so, the challenge before us is not to abandon the world, but to redeem it, not to scorn wealth, but to sanctify it, not to destroy tradition, but to breathe truth back into it, to live in the world, but not be of it, to engage with its systems while refusing to be enslaved by them, to wear the ring, but never forget that love is the circle that begins and ends in the heart. For every generation must decide which spirit it will serve, the spirit of accumulation or the spirit of transformation. One demands possession, the other invites surrender. One leads to greed, the other to grace. One consumes everything and is still empty, the other gives everything and is still full. And it is only when we choose the latter, when we choose to live as givers, not takers, as creators, not consumers, that we begin to understand the divine architecture of wealth. You see, the true wedding is not between man and woman alone. It is between the human and the divine. It is the marriage of will and wisdom, of purpose and grace. And until that union happens within, no ceremony, no fortune, no achievement will satisfy. The world will continue to glitter, and the soul will continue to thirst. But when that marriage happens, when the heart weds the truth, all creation rejoices. For then every act becomes sacred, work becomes worship, wealth becomes witness, love becomes light, and even the most corrupted traditions begin to tremble before the returning power of meaning. That is the transformation we were always meant for, to awaken from the spell of the world, to remember who we are, and to rebuild the altars of our hearts upon the rock of truth. And so it ends not in despair, but in revelation. For every illusion we uncover, every false altar we tear down, every hollow tradition we expose, makes room for something far more radiant, truth. The kind of truth that does not need ceremony to shine, that does not beg to be believed, that simply is. The world will keep its glitter, its rituals, its promises of power. Let it. For those who have seen the true wealth, who have touched the peace that does not depend on possession, cannot be seduced by shadows. The wedding feast of the soul is not held in cathedrals of marble or halls of gold. It is held in the quiet heart that has learned to love without condition, to give without pride, to live without fear. This is the final unveiling, that heaven is not somewhere we go, but something we awaken within, that the ring was never about ownership, but about eternal return, the soul's unending vow to choose love again, even after betrayal, even after loss, even after the world forgets what love means. And so we stand here, as all generations must, between two altars, one of the world and one of the spirit. One promises pleasure and fades. The other demands surrender and lasts forever. Choose the second. Choose the altar where meaning burns brighter than gold, where wealth is measured not by what you hold, but by how deeply you give, how purely you live, how freely you love. For when you live this way, every breath becomes a benediction, every act becomes worship, every moment becomes holy. And when your final day comes, when all that can be taken is taken away, you will find yourself still rich, rich in the only currency that death cannot touch, a soul made whole by truth. That is the wedding of eternity. That is the redemption of wealth. That is the revelation that ends all witchcraft when the heart, at last, remembers its true master.